Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Mile of Life podcast dedicated to mastering the male mindset. I'm your host, John Champ George. Here as always with my co-host, Dennis Gunner Metzler. How you doing, brother?
Same as always, man. How about you?
I am excelente. A little annoyed with men and manhood and what masculinity means. Talking about this and sparked this episode. So we're going to get into it. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a couple of things this past week that I wasn't aware of with some pretty high-profile personnel.
Yeah.
Some people who are in the media spotlight from old UFC and military service and things like that. And, it drew a lot of parallels for me with this one individual to people that we've had involved directly in our lives. So when you started talking about it, it kind of like, it was a bit of a shock.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, disappointing. So bunch of you, people that are fans of this podcast are, we have some crossover. You guys follow Tim Kennedy and some other, just military personnel, operators, other podcasters, YouTubers, things like that are out trying to motivate men, trying to push the level, right? Push the boundaries, push the bar. Let's raise the bar a little higher. Let's be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. And it came out this past week. Tim Kennedy's in a little bit of hot water for. It's weird because some of it is like stolen valor stuff, embellishing stories, blatantly lying about some others is kind of the accusation. And I don't know Tim Kennedy personally. Obviously he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's he was in the military and accomplished actually some really great things in the military. So it's weird that it looks like he blatantly lied about some things to embellish stories and make himself look bigger, perhaps better than he actually is.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of apparently a lot of this stuff came out in his book, and I didn't read the book, and I don't know anything about what it says, but just from the hearsay of people talking about what was said in the book, that were obvious lies. It's like, right. Why do you write a book about something like that when you know that you've had friends who are operators who worked right alongside you, who know the real story and who are going to call you out if you're if you blatantly lie. Apparently that happened.
Yeah, and they're gonna read the book, right? Like, it's weird. And the thing that's the weirdest that you and I were talking about off camera is like you actually accomplished a lot. Like, you've accomplished a lot of things. People that do that have actually accomplished some things in life that are difficult or that's I don't want to say like worthy of bragging about. That's not what I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's noteworthy. Like, you accomplished something that's difficult, and why is that not enough? Right?
You let your acts speak for themselves. You don't seek the recognition. Like, everybody that I know that has ever done anything special, who had any sort of self-respect, they wouldn't brag about it. They'd sit back and they didn't want to be recognized for it. They knew it was a situation that they were in. It was something that they handled correctly. Maybe there was a bit of pride inside themselves for doing that correctly, but they never wanted any kind of accolades or rewards or awards for things like that. But there's apparently a subset of the population who do things like that.
Yeah.
that just want the recognition. They need the recognition.
Yeah, and it's like it's never enough. There's never enough validation. And you and I had an individual in our lives that we had to eject from our lives for exactly the same thing. And it's strange because it's like these people are sick. Like to be just straight out of the gate, I don't know Tim Kennedy. I don't know what he actually accomplished, what he didn't accomplish. There are some things that are a big deal in my eyes that he did accomplish, and I know that he accomplished them, and that's great. And these other things that are embellished and or blatantly lied about or whatever, it's a shame because like you did enough. You know what I mean? You actually did enough. You actually accomplished some things that are very difficult. And but there's something inside these people that it's just never enough. They never get enough attaboys. They never get enough attention, whatever. And you know, the piece of fucking shit that we got rid of, you know, it was exactly the same thing. It was like the stories were so grandiose and they got more and more ridiculous as time went on. And like, as the story progressed and started to figure out like this guy would lie to us and he would tell me a story or he'd tell us a story. And when we started catching on that, oh, he's fucking full of shit, then we would intentionally not give a reaction. And in that, it would spark in him, oh, wait, this lie's not big enough. This lie's not grand enough. I don't look special enough or big enough. I need to step it up. And the lies would get so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, and people like that, they're a special kind of manipulator.
Yeah.
They're super cautious and super careful, and it's a plan. It's a plan in their lives. It's an everyday plan. And you know who the fuck you are. So if you're watching this or you're listening to this, fuck you.
Yeah.
Because you manipulated our friendship. You manipulated the people that we are. And one of the only reasons that we discovered you was because you told two separate lies to he and to I at different times, and you continued to do that, and eventually that shit caught up with you because we all three were very close.
Yeah.
This person was a special kind of manipulator who was in my life for probably the better part of 15 years.
Yeah.
And I found that he would allow me in certain aspects of his life and certain areas of his life and keep me out of others. And it was just a weird feeling, you know, and when you get that gut feeling down inside you, I ignored it for the longest time. And I'm not saying he was a best friend, but he was a good friend.
Sure.
But that was only because I didn't trust my instincts for that portion of time that he was my friend.
Well, and not to interrupt you, but this is what makes it more sick is because of his positions. He was a police officer.
Right.
You were a police officer. So you wanted to believe that badge meant something to him, that uniform meant something to him, that position meant something to him, and he had some sort of a moral compass, as you do, to not be full of shit, to not lie, especially to you and to me.
Right.
You know, when we're all supposed to have each other's back, and literally your life is in the hands of the other two guys, you know. Yeah, he's a special. You're a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
And his position with, like you said, with you, he had stories and things he would tell you that were different than he would tell me because I wasn't a cop, right? I didn't do that. So he would tell me stories about being a cop that he wouldn't tell you because he knew you would know better and you would, you know, you could call him on that lie. Where I wasn't a cop. So, you know what I mean? If he lied to me about the military or he lied to me about jiu-jitsu or something like that, obviously I would see through it and I would know better. But
yeah, and that's part of the reason he tripped up was because he actually shared some of those stories with you that I had firsthand knowledge of.
Yeah.
And that wasn't fucking true. Like the things he was telling you about friends of his dying, I'm like, yeah. And that was another part of it, was he was using other people's pain and trauma to gain and garner attention for himself and gain sympathy for himself when other people actually suffered those traumas, but he would manipulate it in such a way that it would become grandiose. That person died. That person burned in a fire. That person did this, that. And it wasn't fucking true. And
the very first day that I met this guy, and obviously I met you through him. So the only good thing that came from him was our friendship and our relationship. But the very first day I ever met this guy, he needed to try to hook me, I think. I think he felt like he needed to try to, have some sort of a brotherhood, a relationship or whatever. And we trained, excuse me. We trained, and then he said he was going to walk out to his car. He walked out to his car, and he was out there for a while, man, like 15, 20 minutes. And that struck me as odd. And obviously now, hindsight, knowing like he's very calculated in everything that he does. So all he was doing was going out there and waiting. You know what I mean? It was calculated as intentional. I'm going to sit out here. It's going to get his attention. He's going to come out here. Or he's going to send somebody out here, which I did. And I walk out there, and he's sobbing, right? Now, again, in hindsight, he probably just poked himself in the fucking eyes, or, or he just tapped into the mommy and daddy-sized hole in his heart that makes him the piece of shit that he is in the first place. But he's sobbing, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Again, off-putting, because this is one of the first days I ever met this guy. Like, I met him one time before, had a couple text messages, conversations, whatever, and then this is the first day, like, hey, come train, hang out, whatever, we're going to get to know each other. And so I go out there, he's fucking sobbing. I'm like, okay, something must be wrong. And he tells me a story about, he knows I ride motorcycles. He knows that's a big part of my life. He tells me one of his, first that it was his partner of many years. They rode motors together, meaning they are both motorcycle cops, and they were partners, and they patrolled together for years. And he just got news when he went out to his car that he was intentionally run down on the highway and killed, and that it was intentional because he was on his motor, obviously in uniform. It's a patrol bike, and it was a gang related thing, and the guy plowed him down intentionally and then took off.
Sure.
And he's dead. And I was like, fuck, that's so for me, like, again, how gross is that? Like, he's trying to tap in on, he knows that I know what it is to be a partner. He knows that I know what it is to lose people. He knows that I know what it is, like motorcycles and driving. And, he's picking multiple things that are going to speak to me and matter to me, right? And he's also trying to communicate. This is what's so disgusting. He's trying to communicate that he has these deep bonds and deep relationships with other people where their lives were in each other's hands. And now he's lost that.
Yeah.
And, come to find out, spoiler alert, Gunner knows this guy.
I know that person personally. I was a patrol cop with that person. And, I hate not naming people, and I'm not going to name him because he was a victim.
Yeah.
But let's just call this individual that we're talking about, since we have put some kind of personality to it. I won't use his real name, but we'll call him Seth Garnett.
Okay. Seth Garnett.
So for anybody who actually knows me, who watches this, Seth Garnett, you know who he is. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the story you're telling is not that far out of the realm of possibility. Sure, there's a guy, a motorcycle cop, out in Arizona, riding his motor home. Some gangbanger who's high on meth decides, well, this is the time that he's going to take out a cop, and he fucking runs him down and kills him. I mean, stranger things have happened, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's pretty reasonable.
Sure.
The story with this is that it wasn't a gang member. It wasn't an intentional act. The officer was on his way home on his personal motorcycle, not in uniform. And worst off, he wasn't killed. He was badly, badly injured, and he was in a coma, but he made a full recovery and made it back to patrol. It was a drunk driver. Just hit him after midnight, Arizona on the freeway, and the guy went to jail, and my friend made a recovery.
Yeah.
But so many aspects of that story were manipulated to make them seem bigger and worse than they are, and for the ultimate goal of just gaining that sympathy for himself. Yeah. Taking somebody else's tragedy and using that for his own personal sympathy, which is fucking disgusting, because there are people like that all over. And I know both of these individuals personally, and I am disgusted that one person that I used to call a friend, and a close friend, not a best friend, a close friend, would use my other friend's tragedy for sympathy. It's so petty. It's so petty. And then continue to do that through the entire relationship that the three of us had together, and to continually be found out. And then when he eventually gets called out, having to backtrack and go, oh, no, that's not what was said. Oh, that's not what was said. This is what really happened. And, it's just more of a manipulation and trying to see which way he can or individuals like that can stay in your life and still manipulate you and gain points for themselves.
Well, and it's disgusting when when they get found out and then they just double down on the lie again. Like the big thing with Tim Kennedy right now. Again, I don't know a lot about that. I didn't read the fucking book. Whatever. If it's true, I'm super fucking disappointed. Again, because it's unnecessary. But the thing with Tim Kennedy, the problem is that this came out, operators came out, and they're like, they have podcasts, other operators in, in that realm came out, and they're like, there's no fucking way this is real. I was there, or I was here, or I know this, or I know that, and there's no way that's real. And then Tim Kennedy put out a rebuttal video, and even the layman would know that some of what he's saying is wrong, right? So it's like, dude, definitely there are some lies involved in this, and I need you to fucking just fess up to it. But they fucking won't. Same thing with Seth Garnett. That fucking guy, and the list of lies to our listeners, our fans, it was ridiculous. There were so many. Yeah. And they were ridiculous. And leave us comments, and we'll do a whole episode on specific ones. Some of them were so absurd. One, I'm going to tell you here in a minute, but
I want to go which one you're talking about too.
Yeah.
I hope I know which one you're talking about.
But I want to jump forward to this point of like doubling down even when you're caught. When we confronted Seth Garnett about his lies and about what was going on, he just doubled down and was like, no, like he would try to take responsibility, but in a calculated way, right? He's like, oh no, like that's not exactly what was said. What I actually meant was this, or what actually happened was that, but there was a misunderstanding. It's always a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, right? And we knew that was going to come because he's a pathological fucking liar. He's disgustingly sick. And so one of the stories that we like really fucking hammered home with him, and that he still doubled down on, is this one. And it's pathetic and it's disgusting. It's yet again is another story that he told me about when he was a cop working in Arizona. Seth Garnett was a cop in Arizona, and he had to jump around multiple precincts because he would be found out, and he'd have to jump ship and move somewhere else because he's a fuck up. But anyway, I digress. So one of the stories that he told me that you have firsthand knowledge of is that there was a situation where there was a police chase this guy down. The guy wrecks out, and then the guy jumps out of the vehicle with a gun. And there's this like 30-year sergeant. Am I saying that? He was a sergeant, right?
Sergeant, yep.
It's like 30-year sergeant and Seth Garnett. I almost said his real name. And Seth Garnett are the two on the scene, right? And so this, the 30-year sergeant shoots the guy, right? Once in the chest. Seth Garnett has him flanked. He's over here on this side, and he shoots him 4 times in the ribs, in the rib lung area. Okay? Killing him. Eliminating the threat. Everybody comes, all the things happen, whatever. He's a hero. And the real story, I'll let you tell the listeners the real story.
The police report reads completely different, that the sergeant was actually the one who took the fatal shot and killed the guy, and that Seth...
1 round.
Right.
To the chest.
It might have been 2. It might have been 2.
Okay, 1 or 2 rounds to the chest.
Yeah, center mass, good shoot. Everything's clear, and that Seth Garnett didn't have the involvement that he said with that one.
He not only did not shoot, but he did not shoot because he was not there. He showed up, 20 minutes, 30 minutes after the fact or something like that.
Besides the fact, I've actually seen him shoot in real life at a real suspect and pepper the side of a building and have no fucking clue what he's aiming at into a dark window.
And then fall down in my fucking lap because he couldn't even stay on his feet. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a special individual. So to think that he could even potentially fire 4 rounds and hit all 4 of them, because I watched him mag dump into the side of a building and hit somebody 3 times. Mm-hmm. Nowhere near center mass.
Nowhere.
No, it was just all appendages because I was patching all his fucking holes up.
Yeah, leg, foot, hand.
Yeah.
Leg, foot, hand.
And his ass. He shot him in the ass. So that was the closest he got to center mass with 16 rounds, I think, that went off.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I thought they were going to tell a different story. I thought you were going to tell. The one about where he was running his mouth, and these stories are stories, and they're true stories because I know because I was there, or because you were there, and he knows that they're lies. But the fact is that there are people in your life right now that are probably a level of this manipulator, and you need to recognize these situations when they present themselves. And if you have a gut instinct about these things, you really need to call it out and don't distrust your gut.
Yeah. Don't worry about being nice. Don't worry about being polite, because that's my point to what I was saying. We confront him with this lie. We're like, bro, you have so many lies. We have a fucking long list of things that we know you're lying about. And this one, like, there's a coroner's report, there's a police report that shows how many times this guy was hit, where he was hit. We got other cops on the scene that Gunner's still friends with that he made a phone call, and they're like, bro, that fucking guy wasn't even there. He showed up 20, 30 minutes after the scene was already secure. But he has to have recognition. He has to have, and it's like, dude, and we confronted him. Okay, why does the coroner's report say that he was shot only in the chest? There are no rounds. There aren't 4 extra rounds coming in through the side of the rib cage. And he's like, well, I don't know. And he's tap dancing, trying to come up with a reason why that's the case. Okay, why does the police report not have you fucking in it? You're telling me that the coroner messed up their report, and the official police report doesn't have you in it, so somebody made a mistake there as well. Everybody else dropped the ball. Everybody else made a mistake, but you definitely were there. You definitely were involved. It's just some magical reason why you're not on the police report. You're not on the coroner's report.
Yeah.
And he just doubled down and would not fucking admit that he was lying.
And if it was one incident, you'd be like, okay, this is a little weird. It's one incident, maybe we can go back and check a couple of things. We can see if this is actually true. And if it's not true, like, let's reconcile this thing. Maybe things were misconstrued. Maybe lines of communications were crossed. But it wasn't one. It was countless incidents that from stories that you had told me from in the jiu-jitsu gym, to stories that I knew personally, down to like the most egregious thing that I think he could have possibly ever done. And that was take somebody's death and manipulate that story into his own personal sympathizing pains that people were supposed to give him, where he had, and this was something that I wasn't aware of until it got brought up by you, where you had told me that he'd been in the gym and telling people that he's having memory issues and problems with his short-term memory, and it was all because he was shot in the head while he was on duty.
Yeah.
And I kind of chuckled, and I was like, are you serious? Is that really what was said? Is that something that came out of his mouth? And apparently he's told that story, Seth Garnett, to multiple people, that he was shot in the head.
And again, he picks and chooses, right? Like, he knows that I know better. He's not going to say that to me. So he didn't tell me that story. He definitely didn't tell you that story.
Fuck no, he didn't tell me that.
But I had one student in the gym come and ask me, like, oh man, it's crazy. Like, how does he, and they genuinely believed him, and they were like concerned just about his daily welfare. So they're like, man, like, does he need anything? Is everything okay? And whatever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, his daily functions and stuff, he kind of like has a word finding issue and whatever. And I was like, and I never knew him to have a word finding issue. I have a word finding issue.
Yeah,
and
so he stole that from you.
Yeah. And a fucking medical diagnosis to go along with it as to why, the origin of the problem. And I was like, he doesn't have a word finding issue. What are you talking about? And he's like, oh yeah, he just was saying that, he was teaching a class, and he's like, guys, listen, if you ever see that I have kind of an issue, like finding words, or my speech is a little slurred, or my memory is off, or whatever, I'll just go ahead and let you know, like, the reason is because I was shot in the head in the line of duty, and that's why I was medically retired. That was his reason to them as to why he was medically retired from police work. And this one student told me, and I was like, you're serious? This was said? He's like, yeah, on the mat in front of, and he named the other students that were there. I went to every single one of them and asked them. I was like, hey, because I need to know, is this, and they were like, yeah. And there were a few that were like, I don't know about that. I mean, because you look at him like, where's the fucking hole in your head, first off, And certainly, like, God is great. There are people that have been shot in the head that are still walking and whatever. And there are the very, very rare occasions where, like, maybe it wouldn't be super noticeable that, like, if you caught a 22 to the back of the ear, whatever, something
super
fucking
long hair,
wild.
it grew over the scar.
Sure.
But, his hair was always short.
His hair is super short, and there's no problem. He didn't get fucking shot in the head. So, and so I asked multiple of the students. They all verified the exact same story. I asked them all separately. And, and we confronted him about that in that same conversation. And again, his response was, of course he played stupid. He's like, what? Of course I didn't get shot in the head. Like, I never said that. Okay. So 8 separate students,
all lie,
that I know for a fact were there that day. All of them are out. It's a conspiracy. They're all out to get you.
Sounds like it. And the thing is that what I was saying about the most egregious thing is, I don't know for a fact, but I can speculate that he took that from a call that was on duty. We had a lieutenant who was on a traffic stop when he and I were both working the same squad. And that lieutenant was shot in the head by the passenger of a vehicle, which high-speed chase ensued. Both suspects were shot. They were both survived and both taken to jail, but unfortunately our lieutenant was killed on scene. So that was back in 2009, 2010, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So assuming with everything else that he's done, taking your word finding issue, taking the motor sergeant that was killed in the line of duty, taking other things and making them his own, that's just speculation at this point, but it's probably pretty close to the truth, where he took that from my lieutenant who was shot and killed and then made that about him.
Yeah.
It fucking disgusts me. And even if he didn't make it about him, it's something else that he heard from somewhere else, that he took somebody else's story and made it about him. And just going back to the fact that there are people in your lives that may be like this individual. When you call them out on things like this and you start seeing them backtrack and you see them trying to cover up, and it's all about damage control at that point for them. It's all about damage control because they know that they're going to lose some people in their lives that are close to them. They know that some people are going to call them on their bullshit. They're going to see right through them, and then they're going to dump them out of their lives. But a person like this, their goal is to limit the amount of damage and to hold on to as many people as they possibly can. So they start another level of manipulation, and they hold on to some people that can believe the lies that they're spewing, and then they just recruit more people into their group.
Yeah, they're emotional vampires. They need your attention. They need your validation. They need your, and it's pathetic, really. Like, if he wasn't such a piece of shit, I'd feel bad for him. But he's too much of a piece of shit. And people like that, they're so pathological and they're so narcissistic that I don't feel bad for them. But they just have a hole in their heart that will never be filled, but they constantly try to fill it with the validation of others. And it makes me happy. Like, it makes me happy to know that hole will never be filled. It makes me happy to know that no matter how grandiose the lie, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how much you strive for that attention, whether you get it or not, it's never going to satisfy that demon. It's never going to satisfy whatever the fuck is going on in you. The second that you need to recognize it and you need to say, I actually have a big fucking problem here, and then correct it and have some sort of a moral compass. But a guy like that specifically, he preaches about a moral compass. He preaches about, being a good person and having solid values and this and that. And he's one of the most unethical and immoral people that I know.
Yeah, and preaching about a moral compass from somebody like that doesn't mean a fucking thing to him. He doesn't know what a moral compass is because he's borderline psychopathic. I mean, there's no emotion there. There's nothing to latch onto. And we were talking about it before off camera. It's gotten to the point where this was what, 2 years ago, almost like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And we started seeing some posts on social media with him involved in some things where he shouldn't be involved in, teaching certain classes and everything. But just to see the physical appearance on him and to see that something's really wrong in his life because his physical appearance has deteriorated drastically over the past year and a half, 2 years. And
I'll clarify what he's talking about because I don't care, because I have a problem with them too. So, he was found out by us, confronted by us, and it gets deeper. Like, the issues are far deeper. He was doing things inside the academy that he should not have been doing either, and I found out about all those as well. Those things specifically being he's married with children, getting involved with a chick in the gym who was married with children. I found out, kicked both of them out of the gym. I know him, so I knew exactly where he was going to go. I knew exactly what academy he was going to try to go to. And so I called him up, let him know, because I would want to know. And listen, I'll make my own decisions based on, I know that there's drama in gyms. It doesn't matter. Like, weightlifting gyms, jiu-jitsu gyms, boxing gyms, it doesn't matter. If there are people involved, then there's going to be drama involved, right? And there are two sides to every story. Okay. But I do, as a professional, I would like the professional courtesy of a heads up. Like, hey, just so you know, do with this what you will, but I'm kicking this guy out of my gym because of X, Y, and Z. So that's exactly what I did. Called him up, said, hey, this guy I'm kicking him out of my gym. I'm kicking this chick out of my gym. Here's why. And I told him straight up, I was like, if he hasn't already gone there, he will soon. And I could tell by the silence on the other end of the line that he already had.
Yeah.
And who knows what story he told them, who knows whatever. But he very shortly after that was promoted to black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under this academy, and is now a coach teaching specifically an all-women's class. When I told them, like, this guy, and again, you don't know me from anybody else. Sure, I don't have a relationship with that gym, right? But that kind of is a bigger deal. Like if another black belt calls you and says, "Hey, I'm kicking this person out of my gym, and I know for a fact they're going to go to you. It's the only reason I'm calling you, and I'm just giving you a heads up that you have poison headed your way." You don't have to do what I fucking say. Do whatever you want, because if you take him, and I didn't say this to them, but it's the reality of it. If you take him, you're going to pay for it. Like, it will, he can't help himself. But how dumb are you guys? Like, you put him in charge of an all women's class when specifically he's got an issue, not only with being a pathological liar and a disgusting human, but adultery across the board for years and years and years and years and years. Like, this is not the first occasion, just so we're clear. There are many stories from many, many people. And then you guys take him and then you put him in charge of an all-women's class. Well, enjoy that fucking shitstorm. You just poured gasoline all around your house and you're just tossing matches around and hope your fucking house doesn't light on fire.
Yeah, so that just goes to show the class of a manipulator he is, and that there are plenty of them out in the world, because even with your forewarning, who knows what story that he went in there and told them. And this was just another jiu-jitsu gym out here. Let's call them Pound Town.
Okay, Pound Town.
Seth Garnett. At Pound Town Academy.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's just the level of manipulator that he is. And he could have gone in there and told him, "Oh, no, that's not what happened. Like, you have to understand, like, he's a skilled manipulator, and he just came up with this story to make me look bad because X, Y, and Z was happening over at the gym." And
he's probably the hero.
Yeah, he was talking trash about you, absolutely no doubt, and built himself to be up the hero, so that he can come in there and save their gym. And
obviously they're stupid. So, I mean, it took me a while to figure it out, and I'm smart. So they're obviously really dumb people. So it's going to take them even longer. But
yeah, I mean, they had a warning. We had no warning. I had no warning. I just sat there and I accepted things and still kind of sat back and like, this is weird. This is weird.
Well, you're an incredibly intelligent human, and you had him in your life for almost 15 years.
Yeah.
And that's, again,
dude, I risked my life for him. Yeah. He got thrown in the back of an ambulance because he was having some fucking crisis at his home. And I rushed over there, lights and sirens, got there, supported him where he was catatonic in this catatonic state, which was all fucking bullshit, because I could see him. I knew who he was. I knew he didn't have these issues, but he's all putting on this act. He gets thrown in the back of the ambulance, got to rush him over code 3 lights and sirens to the hospital. And I'm breaking lights for the ambulance. I'm holding back traffic, and the traffic on these roads in Arizona is typically 50, 55 miles an hour. So, I'm blocking for the ambulance, things that I never would do for anybody else. I just follow the ambulance if I had to, or if it was just a regular medical emergency, if that was somebody else, ambulance would have been on their way and I wouldn't have thought twice about it. But instead, I put myself at risk for him to make sure he got there quick enough and quicker than anybody else, because I saw him as a friend. And, that never fucking crossed his mind, not once, I bet. You know, he was inside his own head and like getting what he wanted, getting the attention he wanted from me, getting the attention he wanted from the ambulance personnel, getting the attention he wanted from his spouse, from the hospital staff, and eventually from the retirement board that granted him a retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that thing, there's so many stories. You know, you stretch your neck out for people and you put yourself on the line for people because you care about them and you put yourself at risk. And, you know, had I fucking gotten into a crash and then been disabled, or had I hurt somebody because, you know, I was breaking lights, traffic lights, you know, that would have fallen back on me and he wouldn't have fucking cared.
Oh, no. Nope. It would have just fed his ego.
Purpose, yeah.
Yeah, it would have fed his ego even more.
And that would have been his story. Oh, yeah, I was, you know, he would have flipped that where he was driving the patrol car and somebody else was in the ambulance and, oh, yeah, I got crashed into it. And like, that's how these people work.
Yeah. He's a sociopath.
For sure.
It's disgusting.
For sure.
Yeah. And, yeah, it's sad, man. And, I mean, people like that, they can't help themselves. They're going to keep doing it. And, he's going to keep doing it. He's going to ruin his life. He's ruined his life over and over and over again. He keeps, like, look at how many different precincts he had to work in because he would be found out. Like, again, that was something that you found out later. Calling around and talking to people, you know, and saying, like, hey, man, like, what's the deal, like, with this story or whatever? And then people would come out because you asked. People would come out and like, oh, fuck that guy. Yeah. That guy's a fucking manipulator. He's a liar. He's a what? Everybody out here hates him. Everybody knows he's a fucking liar.
Well, and the way that they found out was because I asked them and they were like, oh, yeah, we heard because he came from California and we knew cops out in California and they called us, the same as you did with this other academy. They called us and they said, watch out for this guy. He's a liar. And nobody knew how bad it was. And this is where we're at right now. So it was from California, from a sheriff's office out there to northern Arizona, down to southern Arizona in a sheriff's office, out to my department eventually where he retired from.
Where was that?
In Schmilbert, Arizona.
Yeah, Seth Garnett in Schmilbert, Arizona. Fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
And a coward, man. Like, just, you know, at the end of it, one of the straw that broke the camel's back, this is how fucking stupid this guy is. The girl that he got involved with in my gym, who was married while he was married. Both of them had children, by the way. Both of them, like, teaching each other's children. It's just gross, man. Like, just no morals, no boundaries, no line of like, yeah, I'm not going to cross that line. It didn't matter. But the lady that he was involved with, she, has a history of this as well. And her husband knows that. So her husband was, following her around, and her husband actually put like a recording device in her car, put a recording device in her bag. It was a whole thing. Like he was gonna catch her. And he did. He came to me, he calls me up, he being the husband. He calls me up and he says, Professor, I need you to meet me over here. I got to talk to you. Got to show you some things. All right. I go meet him somewhere. He pulls out a folder, dude, this big. You already know this story. You guys, he pulls out a folder this big. And it's all text messages. All of it was text messages. And she thought she was clever and had some separate thing and where they were texting, some separate app where they were texting and stuff.
But he had spyware on her phone or something, right?
Yeah. He put spyware on her phone, so he was able to, all the text messages that were going back and forth, a copy of it was going directly to his phone too.
Whoops.
Yeah. So he goes, he prints all this stuff out. That's along with every picture that was sent, along with every, freeze framed. He like screenshotted freeze frames of like the videos that would be sent.
Gross.
Yeah, it was gross, dude. And I got the pleasure of seeing that. He's like, here, I need you to take a look at this and see what's going on. And I took a look at it. And I was like, wow.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, this is fucking terrible. And he told me, he's like, and it's not just her, because at this point it was like her sending, naked pictures, lingerie pictures, whatever. And I was like, wow, this is terrible. And I knew, because I knew his number, I knew what, whatever. And he goes, there's pictures of him too. And I was like, I really don't want to see this.
No.
However, I have to know it's him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to know that it's him. And I saw one picture and it was a picture of him, like it was angled, a selfie picture of him with his tiny little dick in his hand. And and I guess he was trying to catch a good angle, like angles were trying to help him, but they weren't. But his stupid fucking face is right there in the picture. I was like, there you go.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was like, well, there's no fucking denying this. Like, nope, somebody else didn't fucking like hack your phone and have these conversations with. And I mean, you heard me tell him when we confronted him, but he's like, yeah, I mean, like there were a couple of text messages sent back and forth. I was like, 278. I still remember the number. 278 text messages were sent in one day.
One fucking day.
In one 24-hour period. And he's like, what? Are you acting like, oh my God, I'm so shocked. Like, fuck, you're the one that fucking did it.
Yeah.
You're sitting in your fucking, and the timestamps of all the things, like they would text all day long. And the only break in them texting was the couple hours at the gym when they were both at the gym. And then it would go right back to it. Like 15 minutes after they both left the gym, they'd be right back to it. And of course, there's always a reason. There's always an excuse. There's always some bullshit. So,
yeah, and it's there's so many levels of dysfunction to this thing, from Seth Garnett to this girl that he was fucking with to the girl's husband. I mean,
yeah.
There's a level of manipulation on Seth's part. There's daddy issues and acceptance issues with this female. There's a level of cowardice and just being a glutton for punishment on her husband's part, who just, like, this has happened multiple times in her life.
Yeah, what a
in his
simp.
life. And he just sat there and acted like he was going to do something about it and never fucking did. And I'm sure they're still together.
I yelled at him. I was like, dude, why are you still fucking with her? Like, what are you doing? You don't need any more proof. What's happening? Well, I love her. That was his reason. I was like, you are fucking pathetic.
You love the pain.
Yeah, you need to fucking go. I was like, and I told him to his face. I was like, bro, at this point, you stay with it. You stay with her. I don't want to hear another word from you. It's not my problem anymore at this point, because she's fucking gone. And Seth Garnett's gone as well. So it's not my problem anymore. And as your friend, you know what I mean? Like, there's going to be a boundary here now, because you've got to leave. And if you don't, then you're just begging for it to keep happening, which it did. It got far worse after that, by the way.
For sure. And I mean, there's a certain level of dysfunction with each one of those individuals, but when you bring them all together, what a fucking tornado that was.
Yeah.
You know, and to have all that in one area at one time, my head is still spinning when I think about that. And some people, that's just their average everyday life. That's what they do every single day. They manage the crisis that is their life that they've created and they continue to live in, which is Seth's story.
Well, you and I know, like, we saw him every day. He's just so high anxiety, so tightly wound. And I always wondered why. And now I know. It's because every single day of his life, he's trying to keep up with all the fucking lies. That's why he was so anxious around me and you, because at any time, a story could come out that, that he told you or told me, didn't tell the other one or whatever. Guys, listen, I'm going to give you an example of a story he told. I could not believe I was listening to this story, but this is really what he told me. You're not going to believe me. Okay. But this is a story that a grown man told me and expected me to believe him. And now, he told me he did not tell Gunner. Again, because this was of a sergeant. The story had to do with a sergeant that Gunner knew. So he did not tell Gunner. However, I confronted him about it in this big confrontation that we had. I brought it up. And so he did not deny saying it. He just tried to spin it, if that makes sense to you guys. So anyway, here's the story. I hate people being late, okay? I can't stand it. The first day that Seth Garnett ever worked with me, he was supposed to meet me at my house, jump in my truck, we're going to go work. Okay. He shows up like 15 minutes late. When he pulls up, I'm in my truck, it's warmed up, I'm ready to go. And he gets in, and right away he goes, I should probably already know this, and I think I know the answer. He goes, but I bet you're if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time kind of guy. And I was like, I'm not like super hardcore. Like when we were in the military, yeah, like, you're 15 minutes early. That's on time, right? And I definitely do my best to always be on time. But I'm not a super hard ass about it. Shit happens, whatever. And he goes, and that's kind of how I said it. And I was like, but I would definitely appreciate if you're, on time, whatever. And he's like, yeah, I got it. He's like, from here on forever, I will always be on time. And he gave me some bullshit excuse as to why he was late that day. And for the record, side note, he was always late.
Guess what never happened?
He was, and guys, when we say that he was never on time, he was never, ever on time. Even when we went out of state, I was lost. I almost left him at a hotel one morning. I said, there's the three of us. Gunner and he stayed in one room. I stayed in one room. I said, hey, be downstairs at 5:30. We're going to eat breakfast. We're leaving at 6. Or I said, I'm going to be downstairs to eat at 5:30 because they're grown men. They can do whatever the fuck they want. But we're leaving at 6. Okay. I'm downstairs at 5:30. Gunner's downstairs at 5:33 or something. It was like I had just sat down and he's walking out of the elevator. Okay, cool. We sit down. We're eating. We ate a whole ass meal. It was dangerously close to 6 o'clock. And I was like, and I told Gunner, I was like, you can text him or call him if you want. I don't know if he was awake when you walked out or what's going on. I was like, but at 6 o'clock, I'm fucking leaving. And that was because time had passed and I was over it. And I was fucking tired of him being constantly late. Again, I digress. A lot of stories of this guy fucking up. But anyway, so he tells me this the first time, whatever. I understand you don't like people being late. I'm not going to be late, whatever. Then he was constantly late all the time. So then one day we're talking about being late into this bullshit story he told me. And he goes, and he's like, yeah, he goes, I had a sergeant that was just like that. He was like, he fucking hated being late, and his entire time working, he was never, ever, ever late. And then one day, he was really late to work, and everybody got really worried. Like, we were talking about, doing a welfare check on him because, he was so late to work. And, which is obviously a stretch. Why don't you just call the guy? But anyway, so he's like, he goes, yeah, dude, it was the damnedest thing, like why he was late. And otherwise he would never be late. He said he parked his vehicle in his garage. Okay. So you had the garage door and then you had your personnel door, like, where you walk through to go into your house. Well, his garage was detached. So there was a breezeway. So you had your regular garage door. You'd pull in and park, get out, and then you walk over here and there's the regular door. You open that door and you walk out into this breezeway 12 feet or whatever, 20 feet. and then there's the house door. So it's detached, but there's a breezeway. This is the picture he paints for me. And he had two golden retrievers. So he pulls in to the garage, and which was mistake number one in his story, because he's pulling into the garage because he's supposed to be going to work.
Right.
So I don't know why the fuck he's pulling into his garage. But anyway, he says that he's pulling into his garage, and so the garage door is open, right? Well, the personnel door was also open. So he pulls in, his dog gets excited, comes running up, and he's running up and he's like standing in the doorway. And then as the garage door starts to go down, it creates a draft with the airflow in the garage, and it slams the regular door shut. Slams it shut on the dog's tail. Not only did it hurt the dog, but it completely cut the dog's tail off of his body. Full-grown golden retriever. Cuts the tail off of the dog. Okay? Now, really, really hard for me to believe.
Yeah,
okay?
Pretty sturdy tails. I mean,
pretty sturdy tails. Also, what is that door made out of? Like,
it's aluminum.
Do you sharpen the edges of the door?
Lightweight. It's a utility door.
Yeah.
And in Arizona, they're not heavy. There's no solid core doors.
Right. And not only that, he said that this guy had lived, because I asked this question after the fact, he's lived in this house for many, many years. And this is the first time that this had ever happened. That's important to this story. First time that he's ever pulled into his garage door's going down, dog gets excited, runs in there, door slams shut. Okay.
Side note to that, I was at the sergeant's house multiple times, and his wife actually ran a dog rescue. So at any given time, there was at least 8 to 10 dogs running around that property.
Yeah.
So this
that,
was the only time that
this is the only time this ever happened. So he goes, holy fuck, right? My golden retriever, I love him. His tail is off of his body. So he goes and scoops up the dog, grabs his tail, jumps in his car, like throws his dog in the car, rushes to the emergency vet.
Crazy.
Okay? Takes him in, tells him what happened, right? Dog's in surgery. Okay. However long this surgery took or did not take, right? Gets the dog back, has it in the back seat, drives home. Pulls into his garage. Personnel door is open. Second golden retriever. Happy to see dad. Runs in. Garage door starts to close. Breeze slams the door shut onto the golden retriever's tail, lops his tail off. Exact same thing that happened to the first dog
within hours
happened to the second dog. They've lived here for years, and this has never happened. Wife runs a rescue. Never happened. Okay? But twice, the same unfathomable thing happened to not only one dog, but both dogs. And only those two dogs. He goes, holy fuck, scoops the dog up, grabs his tail, throws him in the car, rushes. He told me, he thought this much into the story, that he rushed him to a different vet on the far side of town, specifically because he thought they wouldn't believe him that this happened. Because I think that at this point, Seth Garnett realized this story is absurd.
it's pretty wild.
I need to add an element of, yeah, this is absurd, right? and it's not believable. So he adds this detail of the sergeant rushed this dog to the far side of town to, if you lopped your fucking dog's tail off, the amount of blood is going to be crazy, dude.
You ever cut your dog's toenail just a
Yeah.
little too short, and you see how much blood pours out of that? Now you're talking
Yeah.
about a golden retriever's got large tails.
Oh, yeah.
Profuse with blood right around their butthole, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, there's plenty of blood there, and that thing
dude.
would be just gushing all over.
Yep. But he didn't want any suspicion. He didn't want them to think. He didn't take him to the same vet because they would think you did this on purpose. What are the odds? Yeah, you're fucking right. What are the odds? So he then brings him back home, gets done with everything, gets dressed, goes to work, and then gives that speech. His reasoning to me and to us was, that's the story I was told in briefing.
Yeah.
That's what he told me.
Problem is, he and I worked the same squad. We worked the same squad for a couple of years before he went to Motors and made great friends with somebody who died. And I had never heard that story in my life. And
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else in my department who's heard that story ever, except for Seth Garnett.
Seth
I
Garnett.
almost said his fucking name again. That was
I
close.
know. Yeah, dude. It's ridiculous. And there are people like this in the world, and you need to watch out for them because they're fake, they're phony, they're cowards. They don't stand for anything. All that matters to them, you need to understand, they're good talkers, man. He's intelligent. He's a smart person. He's athletic. Like, he's got a lot going for him. He could actually do good in the world if he decided to take his head out of his ass and stop feeling sorry for himself and stop needing validation and affirmation from literally any and everybody. He's a pathetic little simp for attention. And there, unfortunately, are a lot of people in the world like that. And he's going to continue to just burn down any and everything that he touches until he decides to stop being a pathetic piece of shit.
Yeah, and maybe the people in your life, for anybody who's listening, maybe the people in your life don't have such amazing tales and stories, but maybe there's a gut feeling that you have that something's just not right. And maybe there's simple little lies that you're catching them in, little white lies.
Yeah.
My biggest thing was, throughout my whole life, I've been a skeptic. I've been a skeptic of everything. With Seth Garnett, I gave him a certain amount of grace because he wore the badge and because I respected the position and because I generally give people a little more grace if they are wearing a badge. Not saying that they can't be wrong, because there's a lot of them that are wrong, but the vast majority have been vetted by other people. Mm-hmm. They've been polygraphed, they've been tested, they've been background checked. So you give a certain amount of grace to people like that. And I did with him, and I allowed my guard to be down. And because I'm so skeptical all the time and I'm so cautious of people, I took it as one of those times where, well, maybe I just won't be as cautious and I won't be as skeptical. Maybe he's just a weird individual. Maybe he's just got some quirks and everything. But then as this whole thing culminated and the stories came together, the different stories that he told you, the different stories that he told me, the things that I knew were true, the things that I knew weren't true, it reinforced my skepticism of the world all over again, because it's like, you know, the badge or the position, or no matter how many polygraphs or background checks you take, people still slip through the cracks, and people still work their way and weasel their way like a fucking tick into your skin. And they embed themselves in your life and in your lives until they're done draining the blood from you, and then they just fall off and move on to the next victim. You know, once they get discovered, you know, you take that flame to them, you burn them off, boom, they're gone. Maybe they live. Maybe they just find another victim and they latch onto that person and suck the blood out of them, which is exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, for sure. With any and everybody in his life, man. And yeah, like Gunner's saying, man, you gotta keep your eyes open. You gotta protect yourself. And sometimes it's tough because those guys, some of them are, I mean, he's an extreme case. Like, people that will go to those lengths to lie in those ways, and they have no remorse whatsoever. I mean, true sociopaths, like, just no remorse. They don't feel bad. They only feel bad about getting caught. The night that I got the call from the husband of the chick he was fucking with, as the universe would have it, Seth Garnett and I were working. We were watching a house, and I get a call. Hey, professor, I got a big problem, and I need to talk to you about it. I'm like, all right. And I already, again, I knew his wife. I knew the deal, whatever. So I knew what was going on, or I knew what was potentially going on. And I'm like, all right. And I told him, I was like, I'll meet you tomorrow face to face and we'll have a conversation. So I'm sitting in my truck next to this piece of shit. And I'm like, yeah, that was so-and-so. And he put a recording device in his wife's bag and in her car and followed her and has text messages and all this. And the fucking color drain from this guy's face. And I told him to his face, just man to man right there, like, if you have anything to tell me, now's the time to do it. And again, the husband didn't tell me who and what. He just said, I need to see you in person and I need to tell you something. I need to show you my proof. I'm like, all right, cool. But by then, you and I were on to him. You and I figured out, like, okay, this guy's a liar. And so, but there still was a piece of me that thought, like, man, I don't think he'd do that. But, but I was like, okay, here's what's going on. Like, I'm going to find out tomorrow what the husband has to say. And he looked me right in my eyes that night and he's like, no, I totally get it. He's like, I'd be fucking pissed if I was you. And he go, and like, I don't know what he was thinking. Like, he's just hoping, like, maybe it's somebody.
Biding his time.
Yeah, I guess. All. And he's like, again, just cannot admit fault, cannot come clean. And you would think it's like cannot come clean until absolutely faced with the black and white evidence. But even when faced with the black and white evidence, still didn't.
To this day, fucking day, where all this shit is out in the open, there's no honesty, there's no integrity in that individual.
And what a pathetic loser. Like, that night, all of a sudden, like, we're down. I got that phone call. Had this conversation. He tells me to my face, he's like, dude, I'd be super pissed too. He's like, you're not going to hear me. He told me straight to my face. He's like, you're not going to hear me on any recordings. He's like, I know what she's about. I know this and that. Like, and I know better. Jiu-jitsu means so much to me. Like, my training means so much to my life and my family and my path and my journey. And I've grown so much through like, just all the little catchphrases, man, he's just regurgitating a script. And that's what he does with everything in his life. And people like that. That's what they do in their life. And things that he knows would matter to me, right? Honor and discipline and respect for what we're doing and what we're a part of and what being a coach and teaching jiu-jitsu and all that stuff, what it's supposed to mean. And anyway, yeah. And so later on, he assures me, you're not going to hear me on there. You're not going to see whatever from me. Okay, cool. And I guess he thought like regular text messages and maybe she's talking to somebody else or whatever, but he didn't know that this guy, the husband, knew about the other app. So anyway, as the night progressed, it was about 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so. We're sitting there watching, and then all of a sudden, he's sitting in the passenger seat, and all of a sudden he kind of moaning and groaning and like a child trying to get attention, and does it enough where, of course, I'm like, what's going on?
It's annoying the fuck out of you.
You're whining like
shut up.
Yeah, so. You're whining like a bitch. So what's happening? And he's like, oh man, just my head's killing me, man. My head's killing me. Oh, okay.
I bet it is.
And so I went back to watching whatever, and it gets more, and it gets, literally like he sounded like a fucking pregnant female. Just, it was pathetic. And it gets to a point where it's so pathetic and so annoying. I'm like, dude, you need to go home? Like what? Because obviously I'm not in a good mood. I just got this call. I know there's more to things, right? And I know that tomorrow when I find out everything, I'm really not going to be fucking happy. And I have all this bullshit I'm going to have to deal with in my gym now. And so I'm not in the mood to listen to this fucking guy whine next to me. And he's like, oh, no, it's fine. I'm not going to leave you out here alone. Like, of course, the fucking, because he's such a hero.
Yep.
And, but then he keeps on, dude. And then he's like, can we crack the windows? I'm feeling a little nauseous. And I just take off. I leave from where I was. He's like, where are we going? I'm like, I'm taking you your fucking car so you can go home. Like, I'm not going to. And I told him to his face, I was like, I don't even think there's anything wrong with you. But I'm going to fucking take you to your car because I can't handle it anymore. We get to his car and he gets out and I take a phone call and it's about the case. I'm dealing with this phone call and he hasn't left. He's still over there at his car, his wife's car, actually. Because let's not forget that Seth Garnett is married still. And so I go over there and like, cause I'm wondering why he's still there. Same thing as the first day. He's sobbing again. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on? And of course, and I have no patience right now. And I'm kind of seeing through it now. You know what I mean? I'm like, what? And so I'm like, dude, what the fuck's going on? And he's like, man, just my head's killing me. I need to go home. I don't know why I keep doing this. And it was like the first glimpse of any honesty he ever like came out with. But as soon as it came out of his mouth, he retracted it. And I was like, what do you mean? Why you keep doing this? And he goes, oh, I just not taking care of myself. Like just not sleeping, not hydrating, whatever. And I was
Not
like,
taking my supplements, my vitamins,
Right.
I'm just not being true to myself. All the other
Yeah.
fucking catchphrase that this faggot could come up
yeah,
with. you know?
not having my fucking avocado smoothie in the morning with my hour of yoga. So yeah, he and I was like, all right, whatever, dude. Like, go home. I'm going back to work.
Wasn't there more to this? I thought he was sobbing or like his snot draining out
He
of
was,
his nose.
yeah.
or some
When I
shit.
walked over to him, like this is nighttime, so the parking lot light was kind of up and over in this angle, and I came up back over his right back shoulder, so I could see snot falling out of his face, and of course that was intentional. And now in hindsight, I genuinely think that he put pepper spray in his
OC.
hand. Yeah, I think he put OC in his hand and put it in his eyes, because that induces that. Like we know that because he pepper sprayed himself on the job one night because he's a fucking idiot.
Which was funny.
Yeah, but
Had me laughing while I was trying to be silent and on
Yeah.
surveillance. I'm like, look at this fucking clown.
Yeah.
He just got pepper spray in his face.
by himself.
Side note, because he sprayed it into an AC unit that kicked on and fucking sprayed it back at him. So
Yeah,
fuck you, Seth Garnett.
yeah, he's a fucking
Sorry.
idiot. But yeah,
I
so
digress.
and that's what I mean. Like how calculated and disgusting people like this are. That I need to create emotion. I need to whatever. I got to fool this guy, right? I got to tap into his emotions, and to go to that length because, dude, I've seen, I've been in the gas chamber in the military. I've, we've pepper sprayed people. We've whatever. So like, I know the reaction. I know what it looks like physically, and that is exactly what it looked like. And you're a full grown man.
And there's nothing there that should have caused a react. Like if it wasn't, I've seen people emotional as well, where somebody has died and
Yeah.
they're pouring snot and tears out of their face because that's a normal reaction. This fag had
But
a
not to
fucking
that
headache.
long. I'm talking about like snot line this long out of both fucking nostrils
because he had a headache and he
because
was tired.
his little head hurt. It's probably from when he got shot on duty. The bullet's still in there. Yeah. So anyway, and then the following day, as luck would have it, I remember the schedule. He and his wife left town. That's when he and his wife left town. They left for 9 days, asked you to watch,
their night
the house.
dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a whole separate fucking thing.
Not today.
And then that's when I told you, what was going on when I found out the next day. And he happened to be out of town. That was convenient for him. But, yeah, man. Anyway, all that to say, and it's sad, but there's actually a lot more, guys. There's so many more stories involved with just this one guy. There's so many stories involved with other people like that. There's another fat fucking hairy, lazy piece of shit across town here that I know that is at another gym. And that guy's the same way. He's manipulative, and he's a little puppet master. He's a coward, right? So behind the scenes, he lies and manipulates and tries to get people, and he'll just blatantly lie to people to get people against each other, pit people against each other, like it's fucking high school. He's like one of the high school mean girls. He's a coward. He's a fat, lazy fuck. So he can't do anything himself. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to go fight anybody. He knows better. But to get what he wants, he just lies and manipulates and he's okay with trampling on people's lives and ruining people's lives and doesn't care as long as he gets what he wants. And my point to like bringing him into it and Seth Garnett, there unfortunately are a lot of people like that. There are a lot of people like that in the world. And you just got to keep your eye out for them, man. You got to protect yourself.
Yeah, when you bring up the Tim Kennedy thing and everything that's going on surrounding him, you're going to have a lot of people that defend him. And no, like don't talk shit about our military heroes and our war veterans and everything. And it's not about talking shit about people like that, but it also goes to show like the stories that we have right now about a couple of individuals that have been directly involved in our lives. They're throughout society at all different levels. They're not just at one level. You have them at the highest levels of society. Tim Kennedy is he's a national star. People know him all across the country because of the things that he's done. And again, I haven't read the book. I don't know Tim personally, but the things that I've heard and the stories that I've heard and the things that people calling out about him lying, I would maybe 15 years ago, maybe not. But now knowing what I know with the experience that I've had with the people that I've had directly involved in my life, I go, yeah, sure. I'm right back to the skeptic that I used to be. I don't trust anything 100% anymore, no matter what your position is in society.
Yeah. And there's just black and whites about things, man. Like some of the stuff with Tim Kennedy, again, everything from our seat is hearsay. It's just what we've heard, right? I watched the initial podcast calling him out. I watched his rebuttal video. I follow Tim Kennedy. So, and I've been a supporter of his. Like, why not? He is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He fights MMA. I'm both those things. He's prior military. I'm that. He's, you know what I mean? Like, he's trying to do good things for people and motivate men and all these things, right? And like, we can get on board with every bit of that, right? But then when it comes out, like, okay, you said, again, it's just the black and white. Like, he said in his book, he's got a Purple Heart.
Not unbelievable?
That's a black and white statement. Yeah, not unbelievable at all. I would assume that was correct, and I did assume that was correct. He doesn't. I mean, it's just that's the black and white of it. And his reasoning in his rebuttal video, it sounded bad. I mean, it was like, it was a paperwork, whatever. He said, like, I'm not a paperwork guy, so eventually I'll get around to doing the paperwork and I'll get my Purple Heart or whatever. It's horse shit. It's just like, stop.
Yeah, everything I was ever awarded in the military, which wasn't much because my career was pretty short, was in my jacket. It was all there. It was all in my file. Like, there's no paperwork glitches. They're very good about filing paperwork on personnel that are involved in the military. A Purple Heart's a pretty big deal.
A giant deal.
Medal of Valor, pretty big deal.
Yeah.
If you have those awards, it's going to be in your jacket, and other people are going to know about it.
Yeah, I guess he said multiple times, like he's got. What I heard was that, again, I didn't read the book, but what I heard was that in the book he says that he was awarded some version of a Medal of Valor on every combat deployment that he was on, which is a big deal. That's a really, really, really big deal. And again, apparently that's not true, So they came out, they were like, well, DD Form 214 right here shows whatever. Then like recent videos of him himself putting on his Class A's, his dress uniform, and he's got his ribbon rack right there, and he's got a fuck ton of ribbons on it, but no Medals of Valor.
Medal of Valor.
No Purple Heart. So, and it's like, man, like you don't need that. It doesn't make you better. Like you know what I mean? It makes you worse if you say you have it and you don't have it, and it shits all over the people that did earn those things. And then you just try to claim it.
But since you're such a manipulative person and such a liar, if you do actually have those things, they're going to be on your fucking uniform and they're going to be the cleanest Purple Heart and the cleanest Medal of Valor. Like, you're going to flaunt that. You're going to make big fucking deal about that.
Why would you have anything else on your ribbon rack and not those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you would want that to be known. I mean, that gives you actual clout. That gives you actual respect for something that you actually did. But instead it's easier just to lie about it and say, oh yeah, I got it. It's just a paperwork thing. It's just a glitch. So I'm not really concerned about it. It's one of those things where it's, I don't need the recognition for it. It's okay. It's trying to be humble. But again, if you have a Purple Heart and you have a Medal of Valor, like internally you're going to be proud of it, but you don't want people drawing attention to it. But to have that on your uniform, like if I had a Purple Heart and a Medal of Valor, it'd be on my uniform because it's part of the regulation. Like you have that award, you put it on your uniform.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, why have any other? If you're just going to be like humble across the board, then don't have any ribbons.
Right.
At all. But you can't. You wear the ribbons that you're awarded. Yeah, and the thing, I mean, it's bad to do it in the first place. And like if somebody lies like that, and then they come clean, it's up to you after that. Like whether you go, okay, I'm going to still follow this guy. I'm going to still be cool with this guy. I'm still going to whatever because of the good things they did do and I kind of understand or whatever. That's a personal choice after that. But it's when they double down, like with Seth Garnett, when confronted, it was pathetic how he just doubled down on his lies when we're sitting here telling him, like, dude, the police report says X. The coroner's report says X. The fucking file this big of text messages shows X.
Yeah, the people you said that are dead are not fucking dead and
they're
still
not
breathing
dead.
air.
You talked to them yesterday. Yeah, like you did not get shot in the head. Like all these ridiculous lies, and they just double down and try to talk their way out of it. They think they're fucking smarter than everybody else in the room, and they're going to be able to talk their way out of it. And their ego cannot handle being found out. Their ego cannot handle being humble enough to truly say, I am sorry, I fucked up, I have a problem, whatever, and then address that moving forward. And what's weird is that in order to get attention, they'll do things that would be a knock to the average person's ego. Like him breaking down and sobbing in front of me. Most guys wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Like they would take that as a hit to their own, to their ego, to their whatever, even if it was a valid reason to break down. But he'll be calculated and create it just to get that emotional connection and that reaction and that, be that emotional vampire that we were talking about. It's sick.
Yeah,
dude.
it's weird. Is he trying, or are people like that trying to fabricate emotions to see if they can actually feel something, you know, because I know he's sociopathic and borderline psychopathic. So he doesn't really experience, and people like that don't really experience true emotion. So is it a way to fabricate it and create it to see if he can create that emotion because he's never felt it before? Or is it something where he's just trying to latch onto another victim and manipulate somebody and just get everything that he possibly can out of a relationship like that until he's done and then move on? I don't know. I don't understand it. And I don't think I ever will, because I actually have true feelings. Like you were saying, if I were to ever break down in front of you, I mean, something ultimately tragic has happened. It's not that I have a fucking headache or that I'm feeling a little woozy or my tummy's hurting. It's somebody very close to me has had a tragic accident. And fortunately for me, that hasn't really happened in my life. My family has lived pretty happy and healthy and long lives. So you've never seen that from me.
Right.
But should that moment ever come where you see me breaking down, like, I'm pretty fucking stressed. So this was a normal thing. This was a normal thing for him where this would occur, you know, every 6 months, 6 months. You'd see him in tears over something. It's like, you're not okay.
Yeah, these aren't the only 2 times for the listeners. Like, all the time there was a problem. And when we say literally all the time he was late, literally every single day that he had to meet us, he was late. And that was multiple days a week. He was constantly late to the gym. He was constantly late to work. And the fucking day we confronted him, he was late. This is what a fucking loser he is. The day we confronted him, he knew he was going to come over here and meet us. He thought it was for a different reason.
Right here in this studio.
Right here, sitting right where we're at. And
you were here.
and he's fucking late.
I was here.
I was here. You were here. He was late. He was 30 minutes late. And when he walks in and immediately first thing he says, "Sorry, I'm late, guys. I picked up a bolt on the way."
Yeah, he drives a dually. Okay, so he's got a fucking giant truck.
Yeah.
Super heavy truck. And also for the listeners and the viewers, comes in, clean pressed jeans, nice shirt, smelling good. Yeah. Hair's in great shape.
Not an ounce of grease or dirt on his fingers.
Not a fucking drop. But somehow,
not a drop of sweat. Nothing.
Somehow he pulled the bolt out of his tire of his truck that was parked right outside. Either repair the tire or jacked his truck up and replaced the tire.
Not a nail. He was very specific. He picked up a bolt in his tire on the way over here.
Which indicates he had to change the tire in a half hour on a dually.
Yeah.
And get himself.
And whether you had to change a tire, whether you magically pulled a bolt out of your tire and plugged it, whatever. I don't care what it is. You're filthy at the end of that. And you're hot and tired.
Sweaty,
certainly that time of year. So.
Looked like he was going on a first date.
Yeah, he did. And
almost into like a funeral.
But of course, yeah. But of course, he had to have some fantastic reason as to why he was late, because one, he doesn't have the discipline to just simply be on time. He doesn't have the respect for anybody else's time to be on time. But he knows it's a problem. So instead of just fixing the problem and being a respectful, decent human being, he fabricates some bullshit reason, makes himself more of a piece of shit by lying to us, which that's the way these people are, man. They don't, and that's my biggest thing. I want you to understand, whether it's a woman, you're in a relationship with some narcissistic woman, one of these emotional vampires, they're people like this, men and women alike. And the second that you figure it out, you've got to get them the fuck out of your life. And the problem is that they get their hooks in you and you believe their bullshit. So they will tell you lies and like personal details about their past and their history and all these things that make you fall in love with them, that make you, if you're in a relationship with them, that make you feel very close to them if you're in a friendship or a business relationship with them. They're very good at tapping into your emotions, figuring out what makes you tick, and then latching onto those things. and creating these fantastic stories around that build your image, your mind's image of them, and it's all false. It's all fucking fake. It's all empty. And the second that you figure that out, like, understand, like, Gunnar and I, again, Gunnar had a 15-year relationship with this fucking guy. So he took it pretty hard. Like, that was not an easy thing. When I first called you and said, hey, here's some shit I found out. Here's some shit that, like, because it started with, dude, do you know Seth Garnett to be a liar? Because I hate to say this, man, but, like, he's lying to me about some shit. I know that he's lying to me. And then that's what kind of started the conversation and started the digging. And then come to find out, it was like the second we threw the first snowball over the cliff, it just turned into an avalanche of uncovering lie after lie after lie.
Yeah, and it's super hard when you know somebody for that long, because I mean, we're proud individuals, and yeah. I'm not saying I'm the smartest man on the earth, and far from it, but
you're no dummy.
I feel like I know I'm a good judge of character. So it was a bit of a hit to my ego.
Sure.
Because I had allowed somebody to get as close as they did, even though I was skeptical.
Yeah, around your wife, around your kids, around, yeah.
Yeah, and then when you came to me with the information that you got from this other individual, and you said, hey, look, I've got some stuff. And now I'm going, well, you're telling me this, so because of this situation, now I want to be skeptical of the information you're giving me. Like, I need to take everything with a grain of salt and really sit down and evaluate the situation, because this is going to terminate some relationships one way or the other. And it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. It's going to be something that's necessary, though. And you can't allow something like that. And I tried my best to not allow it to mess with my brain, because I know I'm still a good judge of character, and I know it just kind of reiterated some of the things that I knew in my past, like, hey, being skeptical is a good thing.
Right.
Even with the people that are close to you, because there are individuals like this that weasel their way into your lives, and maybe you discover it a month after they're in your life, and you're like, well, that was stupid. I shouldn't have done that for 30 days. But I allowed this for 15 years. And because this individual was so calculated and so precise with the things he did,
and so
it's a profession. It's a profession for him.
So well versed. Like, he's been doing it his entire life. You're just one, and I was just one of thousands of people this guy's done this to. Think about all the different lives he's lived, like all the different precincts, just that, all the different precincts and all the different gyms he had to change and jump to because of being found out.
So, funny story about that. When I retired after him, and he was still out in Arizona. And we had been talking, and I retired and came out here after he had retired, and he had to be by the coast, Well, Arizona, as you know, is 5 hours from the coast.
Right.
Could have easily gone from Arizona to California to Los Angeles, but instead decided to opt for a trip across the country and start a brand new life in a brand new community on a brand new coastline. Why? Probably because he burned so many fucking bridges out in California that he didn't even want to take a chance of going back there and going back to the old areas that he knew he couldn't stay in the community that he was in, because there was a lot of shit that was coming to light out there as well. Right. Again, with some infidelity and some people that I was personally witnessed while I was down there with him when he was competing in Vegas at a tournament. So that wasn't an option. California wasn't an option. So what do these people do? Like he did so many times, just uprooted his family and moved him to a different state, starts a whole new thing. Same thing when he was in your gym. Created a little life for himself, created his little bubble, fucked that up, and goes, well, now I've got to move out of this one, and goes to somewhere else. And even with the warning that they got, he still weaseled his way into that next gym and still became part of that community until, I don't know, maybe another year before that gets fucked up.
Right. Well, and who knows what's going on there behind closed doors. Obviously there, and I told them during this conversation, I was like, listen, I understand because I own a gym and I'm real. Like, I'll tell the truth. So I was like, I understand that it sounds nice to have a competitive brown belt come to your gym and just walk into your gym, and now that's an asset to you. You know what I mean? Like, if the person is a good person and if they're good at jiu-jitsu and they're an upper belt, that is an asset to your gym. I'm not fucking stupid because I run one. I know. And I was like, but like, it's not worth it. I'm just telling you. And I don't have a dog in this fight. Like, I don't care. As long as he's not in my gym, I'm good, right? I'm out of a professional courtesy. I'm letting you guys know. I don't know them at all, right? So I could have just stayed quiet and let him go over there and burn their fucking place to the ground, because that's exactly what's going to happen. And at this point, I guarantee behind the scenes, it's happening, because
He's running the women's classes.
Yeah. All the shit that came out in the short period of time that he was in our gym. I mean, he had his fucking hooks in multiple different places and was trying to, like, there were multiple women in the gym, moms of students, teammates, whatever, that like thought they were in full blown relationships with this fucking guy. So yeah, he's now running the women's class over there. He's definitely lighting fires for sure. It's just a matter of time before it comes out. But what that tells me is the moral compass and the you know, what those people value as well, right?
Yeah, I can't see how they don't or are not aware of anything going on inside their gym right now. He's been there at least a year and a half.
Well, and when I told them, I was like, listen, I have all the copies of everything. I was like, I understand that you don't know me, and that's fine. You don't need to take my word for anything. I'm calling you as a professional courtesy. And if you would like to see the evidence that I saw that is going to make me get rid of this guy, again, think about it. Not only was it a friendship, but it was a coach in my gym, a teammate, and somebody that I worked with, all at the same time. So it's like, dude, if it's bad enough that I'm willing to sever all those relationships, and other people like you are willing to sever relationships with this guy, you guys probably shouldn't welcome him in your gym. And if you would like to see, but don't take my word for it. If you'd like to see the evidence, let me know. I'll meet you for coffee and show you everything that I saw. Never got a call back because he was already in. He already had his hooks in there. And good, because that shows me again what they value, and they'll learn.
Yeah, they will. And I wish I would have had a warning like that. I wish somebody from, you know, another department would have came and told me, hey, look, you know, just be aware of this guy, because my natural skepticism would have kicked in, and I would have already been on alert, and then I would have seen some signs from him, and I would have gone, okay, yeah, fuck this guy. Like, I need to stay away from him because he's a liability and he's going to cause me issues in my personal and professional life. So I don't need to be anywhere near him. If I would have had that warning, then I would have stayed away. But onto the other business owner that got this warning shot, like, I put myself in his position as well. And you've got somebody coming into your gym, and how hard is it just to say no, even knowing what you know, just, hey, no, I don't want you around here. That had to be a really awkward position for him to be in. So I can understand him allowing him in, and then Seth Garnett doing his little thing and working his way in and doing his manipulative tactics and all. But at least they had the warning and they still didn't heed it.
That's right. This is your warning, guys. When you spot these people, get rid of them right away. Your happiness is all that you've got. You have to protect it. Don't be afraid, regardless of the relationship. Get rid of them right away. You only have one life. Make it an alpha life.